Our question today comes from Paul. He's a switch and occasionally likes to bottom, which he has done in past polyamorous relationships. Currently, he is in a dominant submissive relationship with a submissive wife who identifies as a little or pet, and their lives revolve around this dynamic. Paul is also a high-level corporate leader at work. He's in control all day at work and then comes home and is in control there also. He goes on to write that he's tired. He has not been able to exercise his switch tendencies with other polyamorous partners because of certain life factors. As a result, he has not given up control in a long time and is wondering how he might get a break from being in control all the time.
I don't have a lot to say on this one. I'd be curious to hear some of your thoughts and we can maybe dive into it, but I really haven't experienced this, to be honest. I like being in control at work, at home. I don't experience fatigue from it. I make decisions easily, relatively speaking. I have a hard time identifying with that.
I think the key to this question is him identifying as a switch. So he's mostly dominant, but he does have this need to let go of control, and it's his switch tendency really, or his submissive tendencies that are not being exercised. Another way of just reframing the question is that he's got a kink. In this particular case, it's a submissive kink that because of life circumstance is not getting its proper expression. And he's talked about he has certain life circumstances. He didn't really get into what those were that prevented him from seeking polyamorous partners, because apparently he's in a polyamorous relationship with his wife, that prevent him from being able to exercise those submissive tendencies. And it just is what it is. You got to work on those life factors then. There's no trick. There's no meditating to do. Just talk to your wife and have her dominate you, because if she's not into that, then that's not going to work either. So whatever he needs to do to reorient these life circumstances that he's talked about, because it seems like he and his wife have a well-established dominant submissive dynamic, and she's totally submissive. He, in his question, did not imply that she had a dominant side that she'd be able to exercise for his benefit. And so they open up their marriage, where he probably had that escape mechanism of being able to get his submissive tendencies met with polyamorous partnerships or play partners. He said there are some life circumstances that prevented that from happening. So my advice to him is do something to change those life circumstances, because you have a kink that's not being met. Whatever it is that's preventing you from being able to meet that quote-unquote life circumstances are where you need to put your focus. The short answer is that there's no trick to this. There's no philosophy we can offer that says, well, have you looked at this differently? And if you do this, then maybe you have submissive tendencies which you've self-identified. Certain life circumstances are preventing you from being able to exercise those. And as long as that remains the case, this kink will likely go unsatisfied. The other potential solution is take a vacation. Right. If you're tired of making all these decisions at work, and then you come home and you have to also dominate your wife, if you take a vacation, at least you're not doing that stuff at work. You could just narrow the focus down to home. That's not the greatest advice, but I don't know that there's an easy solution to this conundrum.
I don't really understand the psychology of switching. I admit that in the book. Have not come across very much. I think all the women I've dated who initially identified as switches before the relationship identified as submissives after the relationship. My experience has been that the women I've dated who identified as switches did so because they could not find male partners to dominate them that they trusted, but still wanted to engage in kink. And so they were willing at that time to do it from the other side. Someone like this, where maybe there is genuinely an impulse in both directions. I have not met someone. I haven't talked to them about their psychology. I don't intuitively understand that need to switch. It feels to me, and this is a projection, so I don't want to imply that this is right, but the reason I don't understand it is it feels to me like a lack of integration. It feels like not making a decision about who you are. That could be wrong, though, and I haven't had a chance to really talk it through with someone at depth to challenge. And I think, obviously, making that statement, if a switch is listening, maybe someone would get like super fired up and be like, how dare you say this is not my identity?
How dare you say? How dare
I know. I mean, I think that I just haven't had a chance to really find someone who identifies that way, who is able to have a deep conversation where I challenge these ideas and I say, does that really mean that you just haven't figured out how you want to be? And they're able to hear it and respond intelligently and explore that concept with me and maybe convince me of the opposite. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it should be possible in even a standard 24/7 DS Dom-Sub relationship for either party to say, I need a vacation from this aspect of the relationship. To say, hey, look, you know what? It's super intense and I just don't have the bandwidth for that intensity at this moment. I need an opportunity to take a break from this, with the understanding that if this break is not temporary, I will be ending the relationship. And that's important, is you can take a vacation from work, you can request PTO, but if you never come back, you're going to be fired. And so I think you can get a vacation in some ways. I think it might be healthy for him in multiple ways to take some time to himself, to go off, to be away from both work and the relationship. But he has to come back and be ready to do it. Now, the third line you said is there's a kink there. So I'm trying to think, what if I'm in a relationship where she just doesn't like being spanked? She likes all the other things, but doesn't like that one kink or whatever the thing is. Doesn't like bondage. I do think that I have to figure out how important that is to me. I have severe doubts about the real feasibility of polyamory for meeting. You're showing a side of yourself to a non-primary partner that your primary partner never gets to see. And the notion that that will not impact the intimacy you have with that primary partner seems ludicrous to me. I think that ultimately dissatisfaction is bound to crop up unless this submissive urge is like once a year. If it's very rare, maybe you could get away with it. But if this is something he wants to engage with monthly or weekly, I think that that's going to erode the primary relationship. And the reality may be that they're just different people and probably shouldn't have gotten together and should have had better conversations about what they really wanted before getting together. And now there's going to be some hard choices in multiple directions.
Ending that on a nice pessimistic note.
Hey, I'm not here to blow smoke up your ass. I'm just here to give my opinion.